Every now and again we get an inquiry from somebody to do with fitting a regulator that their proposed project is slightly unusual compared to most. Quite often this is putting a regulator in a very high powered airgun, a very unusual calibre airgun, or running the regulator at a very low pressure in a fairly high powered airgun, such as a gentleman from Australia who wanted to run his regulator at only 90 bar for a £30 plus airgun, which would have meant that it had needed a 55cc chamber, which comes to about here, which you can tell compared to the normal spacer you've probably been issued with is absolutely ginormous. Another unusual inquiry was from a company that wished to modify a PCP airgun so as they could constantly run it off of a diver's bottle, so as they could fire tennis balls. I think their company was to do with sports, and they wished to fire tennis balls at different clay, I don't know what else it'd be, tarmac courts around the country, and measure the amount of bounce of the ball on those different types of surfaces, or the different compactions of clay. And so for a project like this, what we'd advise that you do is you do some experiments first. So to start with, you'd modify the transfer port to the size that you think is going to be correct, add some compression to the outlet valve spring and make any other adjustments. But before you fit the regulator and drill the breathe hole in the cylinder, we'd suggest that you do something along these lines. And this is a kit that we've issued to one or two people over the years, and it's quite simply a bung or plunger or piston that causes a blockage in the air reservoir, and because it's got a very small hole through the centre, the bleed of the air through is quite slow, and then you can carry out some experiments as to the air pressure within the reservoir and the standoff length. So quite simply with this, all you do is take your standoffs in length order, take the plunger and fit it onto the standoff like so, and put it into your rifle. There's a piece of cord so you can pull it out the back of the gun easily again. So once you've installed that into your reservoir, you simply fill the gun up to 80 bar, say, and fire 3 shots and record them. Fill the gun up to 100 bar, fire 3 shots and record them, etc. Up to 200, 220 bar. And then you can look at the figures and see what the power output is and at what pressure it is. So for instance, if you find out that the power that you require is in this box here, and this is set at 120 bar, the pressure in the gun's at 120 bar when you fire that shot, and you've got this spacer in, then that's the spacer length you want, and you require the regulator set at 120 bar. So this is a simple way of doing it. Now the bit which I forgot, which I should have mentioned to start with, is once you've carried out the work on the gun before you try the plunger and before thinking about fitting the regulator, to start with you should just fill the rifle as it is to 80 bar, fire 3 shots, 100 bar and fire 3 shots, and then you can take a comparison of these figures to the figures that you've got once you've fitted the plunger into the reservoir, and then compare the two and find out what is the best setting. Now, a gentleman in South Africa has filled in one of these charts and emailed it across to me so as he could work out the length of the standoff and the setting of the regulator. So I should just show you that. Now for this, I can't remember what length standoff spacer the gentleman had got, or which one he used in the end, but here are his figures, which are difficult to read for the rifle as it is. So at 100 bar, his first shot was 956 feet a second. At His first shot at 200 bar, it was 747 feet a second, and by the time it got to the third shot it was 780 feet a second. So using these, if you wanted, you could then put a graph on the computer. So after he's fitted the standoff spacer and restrictor that he thought would be correct, he repeated this and looked at these figures, and I remember that the regulator that we sent to him was 130 bar, and that was ideal for his project. But this is the way, if you have one of these kits or make one of these kits up, to do some tests with your rifle before you actually fit the regulator and drill the breathe hole. I hope that's been of some use to some of you.